Welcome to the show where we share the stories of the many who intersect with our healthcare system but are rarely heard from. My name is Kevin Poe, founder and editor of KevinMD. Today on the show, we have Sarah Fashakin. She is a medical student and she wrote the KevinMD article, What My Father Taught Me About Language. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
We'll get into your article in a little bit, but first off, can you share your story and journey to where you are today?
My name is Sarah again. I am a medical student. I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I came to the United States when I was 17. I did my undergrad in Texas. I love Texas. And then I came to Boston to get a master's in public health. And then last year, I started medical school.
You said you grew up in Nigeria until you were 17, and then you went to the States for undergraduate, postgraduate, and now medical school. Tell me some of the challenges that you faced during your journey.
I was drawn to medicine for various reasons, but one of them was also because of my grandmother who had Parkinson's. And, it was normal. And then she passed away when she was like 78, which was normal at the time. But then when I came here and I started studying more into just experiencing Parkinson's disease and Parkinson's disease patients, and I realized how she passed away earlier, like so much could have been done. Those were one of the things that really turned my head. And coming to the United States as a young girl, not knowing much, culture shock was there a bit. And I was unfamiliar with the terrain, but I got by, thank God. When I was in Texas, I had so many nice people willing to explain different things to me because you're in a different country where things are done differently. Even English is different. I learned via British English, and I came here and then I had to learn American English and how words are pronounced and spelled, and just little things like that. But it's been a wonderful, fantastic journey so far, honestly. I've gained so many friends, gained so many experiences that are invaluable. And to be honest, even if I may have struggled, but I don't have any regrets. I think each experience was important for me to have.
So you're in the second year of medical school now. So tell me what kind of path you think your medical journey will lead you to.
I think it's going to lead me to pediatrics. To be a pediatrician, perhaps also delving into education as well as also being a practicing clinician. But we will see, because I am starting clinical year next year, and I have been told you may change how, whatever you want to do. So I'm keeping an open mind. I still have that sliver of thought in my head that it is possible I may change, but that's okay. The important thing is that I end up exactly in doing what I actually want to do, because I know it's going to last for the next 30 years, whatever I choose. I must enjoy it.
So let's talk about the story that you wrote in KevinMD. It's titled, What My Father Taught Me About Language. Now, for those who didn't get a chance to read your story, can you just walk my audience through it and share the story of why you decided to write it?
Yes. So to summarize the story, it is a 3-part story. It starts from the very end and walks the way to the beginning, but really is a story of a daughter who lost her father to asthma. And it's also a story that shows the relationship the daughter had with her father and with her mother, they weren't very wealthy. However, there was a lot of love in that family. But the main issue at the time was the fact that the father didn't have good medication as well for his asthma, and it was getting severe, and he did pass away. And it's a story of a girl just writing about that and how she felt, how deeply it hurt her, basically, to lose her father.
Now, go into more detail. Tell me more about the relationship between the daughter and the father and some of the challenges they face through his medical condition.
Yes. One of the relationship was very jovial. The father was one who taught her about the English language. She learned how to write from him. She learned how to use those big words from him, those words you don't even hear, like balderdash and bunkum. Like you don't hear it in common day English, but her father was very much a scholar in that aspect, that he wanted to make sure he passed across proper grammar. He wanted her to stand out in terms of using the English language. So this girl was young, she was about like 8, 10, but she was very proud to be her father's daughter. And that was the relationship with her that she had with her father. However, her father had asthma. He was using theophylline as his medication. And we know that theophylline has a lot of serious side as a medication for asthma. It's not very commonly used in the US anymore for asthma because they're better ones. But that was mainly what they had back then. So that was, or in the country, because this is a story based in Nigeria. So that's why that was the medication that was used. And so according to Nigerian standards, they were not even very wealthy to start off with. She was sort of excluded from the conversation about her father's health. She only heard tidbits that she only overheard some things through the door when her father and her mother were discussing about it. They excluded her from the conversation. She also only observed the severity of her father's condition through like signs like the skin patch and how frequent the side effects of the medication, like the coughing and everything, she was just observing it through her father, but she was excluded.
Now, as you reflect on this story, and of course, you're going through a medical education journey yourself, what are some of the things that you've learned after reflecting and thinking about this story?
Yes. One thing I have learned is, to be honest, this story was actually based off of a friend that I had when I was growing up. She was my best friend in secondary school. And I remember her calling me frantically. And I said the girl was 10 or so, but really, truthfully, she was more 17. And she called me frantically in my first year of college at Baylor University. And she told me that, and it's very expensive to call from Nigeria, international calls. She told me that her father had died. And in my wildest dreams, I was 17 years old, I just started my medical journey. I could never imagine that someone can die from asthma. Like I've been exposed to asthma so much growing up, and even here, I hear of people who have asthma. I didn't think anyone could die from asthma. So I started exploring why. Why would he die from asthma? And then I learned of the challenges of the medication that are available to third world countries. I learned of when physicians, and this is not how do I put it? I'm not trying to speak against physicians. After all, I want to be one myself. But I understand the human nature to also go on autopilot when you're used to like seeing the same kind of patients. You're very familiar with the medication, the treatment, the patients, the type of patients. And so you just go on autopilot and you're like, oh, this is what you do and so. And then you just get that one patient that when you're on autopilot, that's the one patient that now has more severe symptoms and more severe issues, and you weren't really mentally ready for that because you're on autopilot. And that was because I was trying to explore, why would he die from asthma so young? Those are the things I learned going into the story.
What's the healthcare system like in Nigeria? Just if you could give us a snapshot. I don't have many guests from Nigeria on the show, so just give us a snapshot. What is the healthcare system like over there?
It's less regulated, I must say. It's a system whereby if you are well-to-do, right? If you're wealthier in the country, you can get good healthcare. You have access to it, right? And it's also one whereby it's not insanely expensive in the sense that if you're wealthy, you can get by. But the problem is that majority of the populace in Nigeria aren't wealthy. So majority of people do not have access to healthcare. And the insurance is almost useless in the country. So that is the state of the healthcare. You're in a place where the medical education in terms of the quality of what they're being taught as physicians, right? As medical students who are trying to be physicians in the country, it's so good. I promise, it's so good. But the thing is, when they come out and want to start practicing, they aren't paid salaries. So you have issues where doctors are going on strike because they are not being paid. And even when they're paid, the place they're working in, and now I'm specifically referring to the public hospitals, the ones that are funded by the government, the place they're working in is very abysmal. Like the bathrooms, I'm sorry, the bathrooms are not very good. They're not given enough amenities to work. Even if they're willing, all those things are not, there's no incentive to want to participate in the healthcare. So it's really sad because on one hand, I'm a product of Nigerian education. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's just in terms of amenities, where the money is being diverted to is the issue. So if you're wealthy, you can get by. Majority are not wealthy, so they don't get by.
So for those who aren't wealthy, how difficult is it to see a doctor?
It is difficult, very difficult, because there are too many people that want to see doctors, because Nigeria is very big, right? We're called the giants of Africa, not because we're actually giants or anything. It's because there are just too many of us in the country, which I don't mind. But there are too many people that want to see doctors. But unofficially, you can see doctors. Like if you have a friend of a friend who's a doctor, you can go meet them. That's how it is. It's kind of informal. You don't really have to pay. Like if I go to Nigeria now and my auntie needs, let's say I'm a physician. I'm not. But let's say I was. And I go to Nigeria and my auntie needs like medical issue. Rather than her going to the hospital, she would just ask me. She's like, what is wrong with me? This are so. Those kind of things you don't really pay for. It's just free. So in that sense, it's easy. What's not as easy is getting good medication for whatever you are diagnosed with, right? Because, for example, take this story. Even if he had, like, at the end of the day, most of medications, the asthma medication will be theophylline, right? The better ones are not available. What can he do? He can't travel all the way. Doesn't even have the money to import anything. So he has to work with what he has, right? What is available, freely available.
We're talking to Sarah Fashakin. She's a medical student and she wrote the KevinMD article, What My Father Taught Me About Language. Sarah, for those students coming from abroad to study medicine in the United States, what's something that you've learned that you could share with them from your own journey?
So being an international student, just practically speaking, there aren't a lot of spaces in the United States in terms of like class seats for international students. So I would say, first of all, even if you're very passionate about medicine, try not to make it your all in all. Mentally, like it's a mental thing you have to work on, nothing physical you have to actually do. Because typically when people are coming from Nigeria to United States, these people are brilliant, like they're smart. I grew up with a lot of them. They're just intelligent. They know the work ethic. They know how to work hard. They know how to study hard. I don't have to get into all that with them, telling them, read your book, set your calendar, make sure you're organized, I have to give them all that detail. They got it down from 16. They already know all this. But the key is making it your identity, so central to your identity. I say this because when I applied to medical school twice, and the first time I did apply, I was utterly crushed when I did not get in. I never thought I could ever suffer from like depression, but I felt I got awfully close to that. To having I don't know if I actually had it. I never went in for a checkup, but it felt like I was getting really close to such because it was my all in all, my identity. And I had to work on that for the next 2 years before I applied again. And when I got in, it was a different kind of joy I had. It wasn't like if I didn't get in, I would, how I was the first time. It was like, oh, okay, whatever happens, happens. And I still want to be a doctor, but it's not my all in all now. I'm focusing on other aspects of life. Yeah. So that would be my advice, because Nigerians, they're all bookworms.
Mhm.
It's just academics is so central to your worth in Nigeria. So it would be recognizing that and mentally fixing.
And my final question, what are some of your take-home messages that you want to leave with the Kevin MD audience?
I even have to work on being just a medical student. I cannot imagine how much more I have to work on it when I become a clinician, because we all have other aspects of our life that we have to focus on. But recognize that each individual is unique, and each individual should still also be given proper attention, because you never know when you get that one person, that one patient that you actually needed to pay full attention to, but you didn't realize this because you were just going through the motions of whatever you were doing. That is the one central message, because that man left behind a daughter in my story. The man in my story left behind a daughter, he left behind a wife. And I'm not saying that it was just the physician. We talked about the medication and all the other aspects of things. What I'm trying to say is make sure that when all is said and done, you can live with a clear conscience that you did right by the family of your patient, is what I'm trying to say. So thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your story, time, and insight. And thanks again for being on the show.